If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. My name is Frank Latirzo, former writer, full-time observer of this once great sport, which I don't think we're at that. It's lost its luster over the years, but Jack and I are going to try to keep it going. Joined by former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association, Jack Hirsch, sitting there smiling with his Apollo versus Rocky shirt. Who'd you bet on in that one, Jack? You got to unmute yourself.
I never asked you this, Frank. We never went over these hypothetical Rocky fights, especially his opponents. And you're great at breaking down styles. And how would this fight have played out, Frank? Ivan Drago in his prime, the big Russian, against Apollo Creed. How would that have fought? That would have been a heck of a matchup. That's a hard one to pick.
I think
Creed in his prime now.
I'm going with Apollo. Drago was a big stiff, and without the steroids, I don't think he'd have a shot.
But he would be on it. He would be on it. And Drago would test positive, and he'd be given a 90-day suspension. That would be it.
That's true. That's true. I'd rather see Apollo and Clubber Lang.
Mason Dixon and Clubber Lang.
Well, Mason Dixon was a real fighter, so I'm going to take Tarver over Mr. D.
You're popping out, Frank. I mean, we didn't. That's what happens, folks, when the two co-hosts don't prepare as diligently as they should before the show. They stumble into the Rocky things.
Be nice to me, because I was talking to Keith today on Facebook, and he gave me a rundown of your picks, so I'm not going to expose you here.
Oh, football, yeah. I don't want to talk.
I'm only kidding, mostly.
No, well, I'm serious. It's been a bad season for me, as bad as the Miami Dolphins. A little better than the Jets, though. But there's a big fight, Frank, and I'm going to want your prediction on the fight. I might have to cop out and not give a prediction, and I'll tell you why. Teofimo Lopez is fighting Shakur Stevenson at Madison Square Garden this Saturday night. That's nearly as good a fight as you could get in the sport. I'm very friendly with the Lopezes. They always go out of their way for me. Anything I'm going to need, I have access to them. They're not always easy to get hold of, but when I do, they'll always work something out. I don't know Shakur Stevenson. I never talked to him. But sometimes when you're emotionally involved with a fighter, maybe not directly, but, kind of knowing I'm having a lot of interactions throughout the years and dealings with them, it becomes very hard to be objective. Case in point, Frank, I don't know whether I ever told you this. When Joey Gamache fought Arturo Gatti, I did a story on Joey Gamache in the lead up to the fight because I spent the night in his dressing room. We didn't know what was going to happen, what he would go through. Semi-final at the Garden under the Oscar De La Hoya Darrell Coley main event, but it was a big fight. So I'm with Gamache the week before, and I have a friendship with him going. We became genuine friends. And I'm thinking in my head, people are asking me, I think Joey could outspeed him and outpoint him, and as soon as I saw the two of them together, I kind of knew it was over. That Caddy was going to demolish him, which he did. But I was emotionally involved with Gamache. I see it can't and you know the feeling, Frank, because you were in those Philadelphia gyms, not only sparring with these elite fighters, but developing semi-friendships with them. And let's say your guy, Tex Cobb. You love Tex Cobb. And let's say he was fighting Larry Holmes. Normally, Tex Cobb would have no shot at winning, you would say. But because you knew Tex Cobb, you might say, if Tex could get on the inside, I'd give him a shot. You altered your view because of that friendship.
Jack, you're exactly right. And I'll give you a couple examples. And that is why I think you know this, maybe other people don't know this, but that's why I try not to interact with fighters, because it sways you and you can't be objective. I remember when I first started training at Frazier's and I was sparring with Curtis Parker a lot, and I saw him fight maybe his first 10, 15 fights. And I remember having conversations with guys at that time, and this is 1980. And I said, the guy that's going to beat Hagler and take the title from Hagler is in this gym right now. And it was Parker. And obviously, I could have been more wrong. I mean, Parker never even got a title shot. So forget about him taking the title from Hagler. And then when Tex Cobb fought Larry Holmes, I was going to the gym when Tex Cobb was doing circuit training. And he's telling me, I'm going to throw 100 punches around. And I know Holmes can't knock him out. And I'm thinking, well, if he can overwhelm him like that. And as we saw, the fight was, it was a one-sided bloodbath almost. And it's like, when you have a relationship with these guys, you look at it from one perspective. And you know what, Jack? I know you get nervous. I'm going to mention football here, but I always felt that being a Dolphins fan, that hindered Don Shula when he was coaching Marino, because I think he saw him in practice, and I think he wooed him so much in practice. I just think he always thought that was enough to get by towards the end of his career. And I just think the same thing. When we see these guys in the gym and we know how hard they train and we like them, I remember when Cobb fought Dokes, I kind of thought he had a shot there, although he gave a good count of himself. But Jack, when you have a relationship with somebody like that, it totally, it covers you in bias, and you can't be objective. Unmute yourself.
That's the reason why I can't make a prediction on the Lopez Shakur Stevenson fight. I will say this, though, and this is a cop-out, but I explain the reasons I'm copping out. Stevenson has a terrible style for Lopez, a really bad style. But, and then on the other hand, if Lopez shows up the same way he did for Lomachenko, and he's the same fighter that beat Lomachenko, he wins this fight. I mean, but that was a lot of years ago. He's only 28. But if he could recapture that and be the same fighter, he does beat Stevenson. And if he's not, well, it's going to be very hard style-wise.
Well, I remember a fight back in September when I told you I wasn't going to make a pick because I was too biased and I looked for every reason for Crawford over Canelo. And you rode me a little bit, but I'm not going to do that to you because that was your thing. You rode me from not making a pick. And I don't have a problem with that. But I can see your point, Jack. I can see your point. I don't have any horse in the race. As you see, Joe Bergman said he did tell me he's picking Lopez by stoppage. Jack, I don't have I can see what you're saying about Lopez. He does have the power. I think he might be the stronger guy, but I don't have I'll admit right now, I don't have the guts to pick him because I don't think it's a good style matchup for him, and he's not consistent enough. But I do believe if there's a fight he'll have his A game, it's this fight. But that was my other point. When you think of Lopez and Stevenson, Jack, you think one guy's real strong and a puncher, and the other guy's almost a feather-fisted boxer. But Stevenson, like Crawford, like Mayweather, even though they're not one-punch knockout guys, they are physically stronger than they get credit for. And even though Stevenson's not a puncher, Jack, I've never seen anybody manhandle him physically. So if I take that into the account, along with the fact that he has a chin, and I think he's durable, and he is the better boxer, I got to ride with him.
If I have to make a pick, I'm actually picking Lopez to upset Stevenson in this fight, but take into consideration where I'm coming from, because I explained it. I did a big story on Lopez for Boxing News Monthly, and I spoke to them the night of the Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight when they were in their hotel room before he left. And I remember, Lopez Sr., it was on speaker, and he was saying, I'm nervous that the judges might screw us. And Lopez Jr. said, very calmly, we won't need the judges. Very calmly, like not to worry about it. It's not coming down to the cards. Did he give me an idea that that's the fight plan, putting everything into the punch, shooting for the knockout rather than winning rounds? I don't know.
Now, and the fact that you mentioned that, Jack, I'm going to say something else, and you don't agree with this, but I'm sorry, and I'm with Lopez Sr. here. If it's close, Shakur is going to get the benefit of it because he's undefeated. Boxing loves undefeated guys, and I just think that Shakur needs this fight. He needs to win this fight, Jack, for his career and legacy more than Lopez. Lopez has 2 signature wins over Lomachenko and Josh Taylor. Okay, 2 signature wins. Shakur doesn't have a signature win as big as that, but if he beats Lopez, he'll get that. So I think if it's close, and since I don't think it'll be a stoppage, if it's close, I think that Shakur will benefit from the judges.
And you wonder about the marketability. If we have the type of fight that Shakur wins the decision 8 rounds to 4, but Lopez knocks him down at some point, then nothing's really been lost to Lopez as far as moving forward. He could still be a big attraction. If it turns out to be 11 rounds to 1 Shakur, completely one-sided, that doesn't look good. That kind of sticks with you.
No, that's a good, Jack, that's a good point. Lopez, if he beats him up a little bit and loses his career, he doesn't take a hit. But if Shakur loses, he takes a little bit of a hit.
Well, Shakur takes a big hit because this is his chance. If he wants to be a mega star, he's got to win this fight. He can't stumble. He can't lose a close decision to Lopez and then claim, the judges screwed me, this and that. And you'll have Terrence Crawford at the fight saying, I don't know what the judges were looking at and booing or whatever. If Lopez emerges with any type of victory, unless the judges have had an awful night, which is unlikely because it's in New York, so they're not going to get biased judges, for this one. And this is Shakur's chance to shine. That's what he claims.
This is his signature fight.
Party. Right, exactly.
He idolizes Mayweather, and Crawford is his buddy. Well, they made their career and legacy on winning fights like this. I'm sure in his mind, he thinks he could be on their level. Well, for that to be perceived, he's got to win this fight.
I don't understand the Lopez's reasoning. They offered the fight with Devin Haney. They still could have had it. And they picking Stevenson over Devin Haney. Devin Haney, they would do better against, put it that way. I think Lopez would stop Devin Haney. Devin Haney has a questionable chin. You can't say that about Stevenson. Devin Haney's style isn't quite a shutdown style the way Stevenson's is. Stevenson has the Pernell Whitaker shutdown style, the Floyd Mayweather shutdown style. Devin Haney doesn't quite have that shutdown style. And we saw in the later rounds against Brian Norman, even though the decision was fine, we know Haney won the fight. We're not questioning that at all. Norman was actually getting to Haney the second part of the fight, not hurting him, but we saw that Haney was hittable. So why not take that fight?
The only thing I can come up with, Jack, is the fact that I think Haney is the bigger guy. I think he probably has a hard time making 47 now. And I think the size factor might be an issue where I don't think they think that Teofimo could maybe bully and be the stronger alpha in the ring against Haney as much as he could be against Shakur. I could see in their mind, they could say, well, Shakur's more skilled, but our physicality, which is going to play into another fight we talk about, our physicality works to our advantage. And we might be strong enough to keep him from boxing, or maybe they don't think they can do that with Haney.
It wasn't on our agenda. Now we're talking about Shakur's a lightweight moving up to junior welterweight, but he says after this fight, he's moving back down to lightweight because he said that's his natural division, which I find very interesting.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know he said that.
Yeah. Logically, he's going to take the best fights available to him. He's not going to fight Keyshawn Davis, who's on the undercard, against Jermaine Ortiz, who's tailor-made for him. Keyshawn Davis shouldn't be fighting on this show. He shouldn't be fighting anywhere for now. I'm not saying end his career. The guy, like I mentioned in the past show, 7 months ago, he flagrantly ignored making weight. And his fight against Edwin De Los Santos had to be canceled because De Los Santos wasn't going to give him a waiver. You're like something like 4.5 pounds over the weight. Are you kidding me? I'm not fighting.
That's a lot.
Kudos him, right? And then he has the audacity when he has two brothers. When one of them loses on the undercard, him and the other brother go in and physically attack the opponent. This is a serious assault to me, a serious assault. And what I would have liked to have seen him get suspended by all the commissions, put out of action, until his matter gets resolved in the court of law. Because that's outrageous. That's not something that happened away from the arena. That happened in the arena. And we're rewarding this guy. It's insane. That's why I call boxing, I hate to say it, Frank. You might object to this term, but I now call it a gutter sport. We love fights. We love the tradition of the past, talking about fighters and so on, and history and big fights. But it's a gutter sport the way it's administered.
I can't disagree with that, Jack.
You know what I was thinking of the other day? I'm out jogging, Frank, and I think to myself, what single entity, let me throw this to you because I have the answer. What single entity has caused a single thing, or entity, I should say, has caused the most damage to the sport of boxing? Maybe not now, but, over the years. I'm not talking about necessarily specifically now, because I don't think that's the case necessarily specifically now, but it was happening over the decades. Okay, put it that way.
That's a broad question, Jack. What, all the titles and champions?
Well, there's a reason for that. And I'm going to tell you what it was. It was the television networks by doing that. For example, HBO creating the heavyweight tournament, trying to fragment the title. People still think Mike Tyson is the youngest heavyweight champion in history. We both know he's not. But they had, Holmes was the heavyweight champion. They have a tournament and all these belt holders. They're helping that. They help the sanctioning bodies. They enable the sanctioning bodies. If they didn't enable the sanctioning bodies wouldn't have had any power. That's the point. And even now, I gave in. I don't know who the lineal champions are. Heavyweight, we know it's Usyk. But even now, we hear this nonsense. Other names, Fabio Wardley, this name, that name. And it's an absolute joke, some of the fights that are being made. Andy Ruiz is coming back out of nowhere, and he's going to be allowed to fight Usyk for the heavyweight title. What a joke. What a disgrace. And that's,
Jack, I agree with all that. I think the other thing is the fact that boxing is very hard to find. I mean, look at this card in New York. It's a decent card, but how many people have seen Austin Williams fight? How many people have seen Kingsley Abe fight? The guy who's fighting Jarrell Miller. It's like, how many times are these guys? How many times have we seen Teofimo Lopez and Shakur fight? If you're a regular run-of-the-mill guy, it's hard for me to pick the winners of these guys, Jack, because I've only seen them fight once or twice, because the access to the sport, it's so hard to get anymore. I mean, look, we both love it. Neither one of us have the zone. I never had it. You dropped it. I
just dropped it last week.
Right.
I finally got tired of it, because any meaningful fight I have to see on big fights pay-per-view. They had two packages, the zone. One of them, I forgot the exact price, but I'm within a few dollars or so. One of them was something like about $252 a year or whereabouts. You get the shows, but you're not getting the pay-per-views. The other one gives you 12 pay-per-views a year, once a month or whatever, and it costs something like $550 thereabouts. But what they consider pay-per-view, the zone, last Saturday night, Raymond Maratello and Andy Cruz, that was considered the pay-per-view. Now, that was a good matchup. Don't
That was a great
misunderstand
fight.
me.
How many people saw it?
No, but it's not a pay-per-view fight. It shouldn't headline
No.
a pay-per-view show. And that's one of the things they're giving you back. So you know what I did, Frank? I watched the fight. I went to YouTube in the morning, and I got the zone commentary and picture and broadcast on YouTube in the morning.
That's what I did.
You know, the best thing to do, go to sleep early. Don't tune to the result. Wake up and watch the fight that way, as if you're seeing it live.
I agree, Joe. That is the case. But Jack, the problem is that was an outstanding fight. It might end up being one of the contenders for fight of the year, even though the year's only a month old. But how many people saw it? How many people saw it? So if you take into the fact that you can't see it, and when you do want to see it, they gouge you, and it's hard to find. I don't know how much longer it lasts.
Well, I'm going to get the Lopez Stevenson show. It's $70 because I know the Lopez. This is it's a great main event. Great main event. And the undercard, put off.
Wait a second, Jack. Jack, wait a second. You said you're going to get it, but you don't have the zone. So is it pay per view?
No. You can get anyone can get the zone app, not get the fights. Get the app, and they have a lot of advertising, this and that. They'll give you some interviews. They'll tease you and give you a little bit on there. Okay, I'm new to not having the zone because I've had it for years. And you can order the fight individually. Okay.
Let me see something. As you're talking, I just want to see something. I have my TV right here. Let me see what happens when I say Stevenson, Lopez.
Well, I don't know what it's going to be by your TV.
Boxing Stevenson versus Lopez.
This is an exclusive. Frank, we got an audience out here.
Well, we're doing them in service to see if they can get the fight. And right now, I don't see anything where there's any type of nope, the zone face off. No, but it doesn't look. So if you don't have the zone and you don't know how to go through that, Jack, you can't get the fight.
And let me tell you what annoys me too. I'm here, Florida. I don't have the zone on my TV. I get it on my iPad, okay, on the app. And I'm going to have to watch it on that. You know, I'll get by. I'll watch it on that, but it's not like watching it on a big TV screen. It's just the way the sport's being administered. But part of it too, Frank, look at all the power brokers in boxing, the promoters, and how the landscape changed. Top Rank still has a stable of fighters, but they have no television deal, none at all. And they're slowly fading out of the business. Bob Arum is 94 years old. He seems to be in really good shape, and he can still work and come into the office. He's not a workaholic, but you know, he's like a major consultant to it's his company, and they still have a somewhat decent roster. They have a show this Saturday. As that one after Zayas is fighting whatever, and Al Heyman, he's not running the same way as before now and then, and he's the top rank in the PBC. Aren't power players anymore, but they do have some decent fighters. Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya is still trying to stay in the game as a power broker. Oscar's a compelling personality. But who does he really have? Who's his main star? Ryan Garcia. I mean, and that's kind of a good guy to have in your stable because he's marketable.
He had Virgil Ortiz.
He had Virgil Ortiz, and he blew that. He blew that by playing hardball in the Boots Innes fight. You know, instead of making sure he made that fight, I mean, he kind of blew that.
I thought when Oscar got involved in the business end, Jack, I thought it was going to be a good thing, and I couldn't have been more wrong.
Well, Oscar's been in the business a lot of years, in all fairness. You know, he's been in a couple
But
of
I mean,
decades.
strictly as the promoter with Golden Boy, it's like, I don't, and his childish ways are terrible. Just he's like a petulant child.
He promoted a lot of Mayweather's fights, Oscar.
Yes, he did.
Now he's acting his clapback Thursdays. If you haven't seen it, anyone, you could see it. It's funny, but it's not the way a promoter should act.
No, he comes off like a child.
Yeah, he comes off like he kind of wants to get revenge on these guys, put them down, this and that, and he goes out of his way in a certain sense. And Oscar's got issues. Put it that way. He's got issues, and I know about it. Not knowing him personally, people who know people close to him, put it that way, told me things off the record about Oscar. And it's no secret in reality about some of the issues he's had in the past. And it doesn't look like it completely disappeared, but we'll see.
That was a great way to say it, Jack. It doesn't look like it disappeared, because I don't think it did either.
Yeah. I mean, people can read between the lines, I would think.
All right, let's talk about that Mortella Cruz fight, Jack.
I don't think he's a bad person, Oscar. I actually think he has a good heart, but he's just you act like a promoter all the time. Don't get in these childish, things. Clapback Thursday.
All right, Jack. Let's talk about the Mortella Cruz fight. Okay, that was what, the IBF lightweight title.
A lightweight, yeah, correct.
Okay. I don't like to toot my own horn, Jack, but the second I saw, and I didn't know the result, the second I saw the fight open in the first round, within 30 seconds, the way Mortella came out, I said to myself, he is too big. He is too physically strong for Cruz. Cruz is a good fighter. He can box, but at the end of the day, the physicality and the aggression and the jabs and the way Mortella has a decent little repertoire, but at the end of the day, it was one of those things, Jack, where you could just tell Cruz did not have the strength or power to make Mortella do anything he didn't want to do. His skill kept him in the fight. He fought his rear end off, and it's like he made a good go of it. But at the end of the day, Mortella was just too physically imposing for Cruz. And that's what I took away from a terrific fight where there was a style clash, but one guy, a little less skilled perhaps, was just too much physically for the other guy.
Well, Cruz is an Olympic gold medalist. He dominated Keyshawn Davis in the amateurs, beat him, in the gold medal match.
Right.
And the thing about it, Cruz still fights in the amateur style to a large degree. And that doesn't mean you can't be a very successful pro fighting in that style. But in the amateurs, you don't have guys quite come at you with that physicality.
And you only got to hide for 3 rounds. You can't box him for 12. In the amateurs, you can get away with it.
Cruz, I still think, is going to have a successful career.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I'm going to compare his career is going to turn out to be something like Rabosi Ramirez. Okay? You know what? Be a belt holder at some point. But I don't think he's going to attain heights where he's ever going to come close to being a top 10 pound for pound candidate. That's what I mean. He's what he is. Look, I give him credit. He came to Philadelphia to be trained by Bozy Ennis, Boots Ennis' dad, who's a trainer, to work with him because he wanted to be used to the Philadelphia style. And and that's ironic. No one knows the Philadelphia style better than you, Frank, from your years in the gym. But if you're coming to get used to the ruggedness of the pro game, even the Philly style, you should be able to handle Maratella's style, because Maratella fought in the Philly style, coming at him with reckless abandon, throwing a ton of punches.
But Jack, sometimes a guy is just too physically strong for the other guy, and it doesn't matter how he trains. It's natural strength. And that's why when people say strength doesn't matter in boxing, it really does. We talked about it earlier. Shakur Stevenson is not a knockout puncher, but he's physically strong. Muhammad Ali, best example, was not a knockout puncher, although he could hit, but he was not a one-punch knockout guy, but he was physically strong. Think about this as an example. Here's my example. When Ali and Jimmy Ellis are facing Joe Frazier, they both want to do the same thing. They want to jab, they want to keep moving, they don't want to get cornered, and they don't want to be forced against the ropes. Well, Frazier was so good that he actually could corner both of them, and he forced them both to the ropes. The difference was when he got a hold of Ellis and he worked him over to the body and head, it took too much out of Ellis, where Ali could take that and still have enough to come back and dish it out on his own. So the biggest difference was the physical strength. And that's the thing I saw in that fight, that Murtala, his strength, some guys are just too strong to box, Jack. And in that case, Murtala was the guy who was too strong to box. We've seen it countless times. Howard Davis ran into that a lot in his career. Camacho did. Go ahead. You were about to say something to disagree with me.
It made me think of a fight that took place in Philadelphia. I think you were too young, so my guess is you weren't there when Frazier beat Bonavina in the second fight. Bonavina had the strength that he could actually lie on the ropes too and absorb everything Frazier threw at him. And
they were Jack. I was at that fight and I had the program.
Oh, great! That was
the first heavyweight championship fight I ever went to. I was 10 years old.
Well, that wasn't quite for the heavyweight championship, but now you're falling into the sanctioning body trap, Frank.
Well, Joe had the title in 6 states and the ring title. Well, no, he didn't get the ring title. He beat Ellis. That's right.
Yeah.
But Jack, you're right. But the difference was both guys were pretty strong, but Frazier was better skilled.
Well, this is food for thought. Okay, no one breaks down fights as well as you do, Frank. I mean, I'll put you down other ways, but never that way. Let's say you're training Teofimo Lopez, and we're hanging out. It's the beginning of training camp, and I told you, Frank, I think the best strategy, let Teofimo just come at him at Stevenson with reckless abandon all fight. He's got good stamina. Just take it right to him, not just try to cut the ring off. Really hurl himself at him and keep, punching and throw Stevenson out of his comfort zone.
I don't think that would work because I think that would be too easy for Stevenson to defuse. I think what for Stevenson to defuse. I think what Lopez has to do is what Shane Mosley's father used to call power boxing. Come in hard with a jab and either go to the chest or to the chin. And even if you don't hit him, you're moving him back and you're keeping him off balance and then set him up, because to me, Teo's bread and butter punch is his right hand. So to me, for him to be effective in that fight, he has to be able to deliver his right hand. And I don't think if he's crowding him, Jack, and going crazy, I don't think he can get it off as good. I think he needs to keep him a little bit in range and then come over and hit him with it. So I think his jab would be important. And plus, a lot of the guys don't try to jab Stevenson, and guys that have a good jab usually aren't used to being jabbed at. So I think what Mosley's father used to say, power boxing, at least early, and then work into the style that you just said. I just don't think he can come out like Hagler did against Hearns and be successful.
You mentioned something early in the show. Do you feel things are slightly slanted against Lopez because Stevenson has a certain aura in any reasonably close fight? Meaning 7-5, even 8-4. They're going to tilt a couple of rounds Stevenson's way that maybe, could have gone to Lopez very easily as well.
Jack, I said that in the beginning of the show. I absolutely think that. And the other thing is this. Lopez lost to Kambosa. I know he beat him, but he lost to Kambosa, and he never really capitalized on that big win versus Lomachenko. So I think the boxing establishment or the boxing gods look at him as like, we've seen his peak. We've seen what he can do. He's not the future. Stevenson is the future. Stevenson we can promote as possibly being the next Mayweather or the next Crawford. And in
The judges
order
don't
to,
consider that, Frank. But
I think they do, Jack. They're human beings. You could never convince me differently.
I'll give you this. Certain judges know what a sanctioning body would like them to do. I mean, we know that. They scored a
Well, that's
certain
big,
way.
Jack. That's big.
That is big. I don't know, is that the case in this fight? There's 3 judges. The judges might all be from New York. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's been announced yet, unless it's been announced and I've missed out on something. I just don't see it quite in a New York fight. You know,
Jack, an undefeated former Olympian who's undefeated, they can sell him as the next Mayweather or Crawford. That's big. That will bring in fans who are quasi fans and casuals. Oh, this guy could be the next Mayweather. Oh, this guy's as good as Crawford. They'll watch him. What can they do with Lopez? They can't say he's the next Chavez. They can't say he's the next Canelo.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. If Lopez wins this fight, and I hate mentioning Ryan Garcia, I said not to give him any attention, but as much as I hate
Well, you can't ignore him. He's there.
You can't ignore him, but the guy, I mean, PD cheetah, he is, and then he got beat soundly by Raleigh Romero, okay? And he wasn't on anything at the time, so draw young conclusions. And he's rewarded with a title shot. Disgraceful. But if Lopez wins, Garcia wins, that's a big, big fight. It's a fan fight.
I agree. It won't happen, but I agree with you. I'd love to see it. It won't happen, but I just think, since I was a little kid, Jack, I've always felt this, and it's like I really do think I think the judges keep that in the back of their mind a little more than we think. And it's like, as there are big fights in boxing, it's better for them. There's more work. And I just think undefeated Stevenson is better for the sport than one-loss Lopez.
I think Lopez has cachet. I know where you're coming from, and I kind of agree.
He has charisma and that personality, no doubt about it.
That might work in his favor as well. Okay, and keep in mind, Lopez has fought a lot in New York. Okay, so
but think how big Stevenson is if he wins, Jack.
Yeah, well, how he wins as well. If
he wins a decision 8-4 and it's solid, that's enough.
Well, if it's 7-5 and there's some people who feel that Lopez won,
that takes a little off of it.
Yeah.
Jack, I just think in a world where Mayweather trained these fans that being undefeated is the be-all, end-all, I just think that carries a lot of weight today.
I give Stevenson a lot of credit for this. One thing I don't give him credit for, and let me tell you what I don't, and then I'll tell you what I do give him credit for. After he beat William Cepeda, he was giving people the finger, cursing them out. And not people at ringside in general when he was interviewed. He was really vulgar. Why? Because some people thought Cepeda could win the fight. They're entitled to their opinion. You're going to curse them out and take it personal if they're picking someone else to beat you, okay? I mean, you can gloat afterwards and say, the way you proved them wrong, but don't get vulgar, the way
it's a shame, Jack. The sport's filled with children. It really is. Some of these guys really act like children.
But I give him credit for this. They were talking to him in one interview I saw a couple of months ago about retiring undefeated. He says it's not important to him. He says, fighters lose fights. Too much is being made out of being unbeaten.
Who said that?
Stevenson. He was basically, I'm paraphrasing, he was basically saying it's overrated. Guys are trying to protect the yo. He's not concerned with that. Getting conservative to just stay unbeaten.
Jack, that sounds good, but do you remember it was a month or so ago where I think Stevenson watched some clips of Marvin Hagler and he just realized how good he was? And it's like, it was totally off his radar. He had no idea. And it just goes to show that these guys, they really don't have a sense of history of the sport. And he may say undefeated isn't the be all end all, but I'm sorry, he is born in the time of the Mayweather influence, and I think, Jack, think about this.
I don't agree. Dare you go again, Frank, blaming Mayweather for everything? Hypothetically, you know who I could blame the most? And I'm not blaming him at all.
I can't wait to hear it.
Rocky Marciano. His
No way.
49
No way.
No. I'm not blaming Rocky at all, but you can say, well, he was unbeaten. So
but he didn't duck anybody, Jack. His record just he happened.
Oh, I know what you mean. No, Rocky didn't duck anyone. No.
That's the
when
difference.
Rocky retired, there was no one available to fight at that time. He was starting to become tired of boxing, didn't wait around. I'll agree with you on that. Rocky.
My undefeated Dolphins did not plan on going undefeated. They just happened to win every game. But at the start of the season, the goal was to get back to the Super Bowl and make amends for what happened when they got beat by the Cowboys. And they just happened to go undefeated. That applies to Marciano. Mayweather's undefeated record was manufactured. Joe Calzaghe's isn't, Crawford's isn't, Ward's isn't, but Mayweather's was. So, and Jack, you say I blame for everything. He's the reason why this sport is the way it is.
His record was manufactured a lot towards the end, but
the last 11 from 2007 to 2015 manufactured.
No, I mean those fights. Some of them were risky. I mean, he fought De La Hoya big fight. De La Hoya was a little past his peak, close fight.
And fought once in 3 years and didn't look great against Steve Forbes.
Yeah.
Come on, Jack. Come on.
Yeah.
Mayweather, after he beat De La Hoya, became a bigger businessman than Jamie Dimon. He just
if Mayweather had a loss, let me ask you this, Frank. If hypothetically, let's say Mayweather had one loss on its record. He lost once early in his career. Let's make believe.
Changes everything.
Oh, no. This is what I mean. And he still, regardless of the one loss, he still made the same money, still had the same popularity.
He wouldn't have made the same money.
No.
No way. His stock and trade, Jack, was nobody has beat me. That was his stock and trade. If he had one loss.
At the end, no one was talking about Mayweather getting to 50 and still he started pushing it when he had about maybe 44 fights or something like that. But had Mayweather lost the fight early, and let's say he retired with a 49-1 record, I think he would have made a comeback with all the money available, with Turkey, his Excellency.
He would have, because Jack, what do we see a lot in boxing? When a fighter loses their first fight, we see sometime down the road, they start losing more because everybody wants to be undefeated. But once you lose that first fight, then you think, okay, I want to get as much out of this sport financially as I can. Think about this, Jack. If Marciano is 48-1, is there a person on the planet that follows boxing that thinks he could have had a chance to beat Muhammad Ali? No, it's that 49-0. The fact that they never saw him defeated makes you think that he always found a way to get it done, and he would have found a way to get it done against anybody. It changes everything. When you're undefeated forever. Marciano knew that. But his was not manufactured. It just so happened to be he won every fight. Mayweather's is different. He is the reason why this sport is in the shape it's in today for so many reasons.
Yeah, but people aren't fooled at the end. I think Mayweather's highly regarded because he's truly an all-time great boxer.
It's a great all-time great boxer.
I'll give you an example. Julio Cesar Chavez wasn't unbeaten, and maybe that's a bad example because he was unbeaten for a while. But if you're going to ask anyone who is greater, him or Andre Ward, him or Joe Calzaghe, nearly everyone would say Julio Cesar Chavez.
Maybe over Calzaghe. I'm not sure about Ward.
Okay, let me go a step further. Shane Mosley, Andre Ward. If I ask people who was better, they wouldn't. A lot of people might say Shane Mosley.
Jack. There's not one person that we know that would say Shane Mosley was better. He has 8 losses. There's no way that they would say.
Not who had a better career, who was just a greater fighter. And they would think Mosley.
Well, I'm a huge Mosley fan, and I'm not sure the answer to that.
Yeah,
I think Ward was a smarter fighter. Shane Mosley, to me, tried to be a puncher when he should have boxed guys, and he made fights tougher than they had to be.
We were talking before about the promotional groups, Top Rank, PBC, Golden Boy, especially Top Rank, PBC not being the forces they were, but they're still in business. Are they going to rebound this basically? Are they going to fade into oblivion? Dana White has his first show, and Oscar De La Hoya and Dana White hate one another. So Oscar went on social media. Did Oscar have a good point? Because Dana White's first show for, what's it called? Zuffa Boxing or whatever.
Zuffa, right.
Callum Walsh was in the main event. Guess who? Carlos Ocampo? That's not exactly entering to much fanfare. You'd think Dana White would want something really substantial. You know, and that,
you would
Oscar
think that, but
that's the best you can do after you're making all this announcement. You're breaking into boxing, and Oscar was laughing about it.
Well, Jack, Dana White, I don't consider him a boxing guy. Okay, number one, I know he had a few amateur fights, but I don't consider him a boxing guy. But he has a lot of money, and he has a big ego, and he's going to want to become the emperor and king of boxing like he is with MMA. And he knows he can't do that overnight with one card. So it's like, I know this much. He has guts. He has some foresight. He has some ideas. I mean, I am not going to count him out. And I don't know if he's good or bad for boxing. He may be good for boxing from the standpoint that we may see fights we want to see, but maybe the fighters won't make as much money because we know in the UFC they don't make a whole lot of money.
Well, you start to think with Turkey, His Excellency, and Dana White, was this a master plan? I mean, I'm not saying it was at all, but it's been bandied about. Overpay the fighters, get them to leave their promotional groups because you can offer them so much more money. Put them
and then dial it back once you get them in.
Out of business, right? And then dial it back. And not only are they not getting more money, they're not getting even what they got before. Okay, the big money came in, and fighters would get paid something the way the UFC got paid, grossly underpaid, and the fighters would have no choice maybe but to accept that money because there's no union. The fighters aren't going to go on strike.
No, they have no power.
No, and maybe the only ones who get big money, if it's a pay-per-view event, you pay them a little more. I don't know. That's a possibility. Dana White said, why is Oscar bothering me? He hates Oscar. But he's saying, all the promoters could do business like usual. I'm not their competitor. Listen, you put on, his show with Callum Walsh, you're not being the competitor for a show like that. I get it. But in the big picture, Dana White, yeah, he is a competitor. He is.
I wouldn't count him out, Jack. He has 2 things or 3 things. He has money, he has a plan, and he has stones. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to be criticized. If you remember during COVID, they had that island where they put all those fights on. He's not afraid to go outside of the box. And somebody coming into boxing that's not afraid to think outside of the box because nobody else does, they're going to be somebody to look out for.
But I'm not sure, is it going to be worth all the trouble to Dana White? Because he has a really highly successful product with the UFC, and he's not going to make.
He's also involved in WWE.
Right, exactly.
And the rap wrestling, the real American wrestling, I think.
It's going to take him a while to make a lot of money in boxing. It really will. It might take years. He might not have to.
But he has that time, Jack. He has that time, and it's not like he needs to make the money to pay his bills.
No, but it's and he might look at the big picture and say, okay, the WWE and the UFC, I can keep these guys very active. I can't keep him as active in boxing. It might not be worth it to him. Just might not be worth it.
I don't know, Jack. I can't speculate, but I just know this much. if you gave me chips and you said I had to put them on Dana White failing or succeeding, I would probably put most of on him succeeding, because I don't know. I don't know how deep the talent pool is as far as who he's competing against. I don't think they're all that ingenious. So I think a guy, again, with foresight, a plan, and the stones to go through and do the unconventional things, I won't bet against him.
Yeah, okay, we'll see. It remains to be seen. If he wants to succeed bad enough and he's willing to put in the time, my bet is he would succeed. But I just question his desire, just because, like his opening show he put on. You always want to start off with a bang, a big introduction, not like a little under the radar event, which he had. Oh, there was the anniversary fight you wanted to mention.
Well, yesterday was the 50th anniversary of the George Foreman Ron Lyle fight. Some people think that's one of the most exciting heavyweight fights in boxing history. I happen to be one of them. There was no title involved, but you had two big, strong, mean guys who could both really punch, that weren't afraid of each other. And Jack, we had it was a Saturday afternoon, a great knockdown, drag out fight. And I actually think that was, if you remember, in 76, a lot of things happened in 1976 where boxing became on the ascend. You had Foreman Lyle in January. You had Ali as the defending undisputed champ, who was at the height of his popularity. You had the 76 Olympic team where we won 7 medals, but 5 gold medals. And then we had the movie Rocky come out at the end of the year. So in 76, boxing was really on the upswing. It was on TV almost every other weekend. And it was started off with this heavyweight fight between these two big contenders, Foreman making his first fight return after losing the title to Ali, with Gil Clancy in his corner, no more Dick Sadler. And it was a fight for the ages. And for a while there, Jack, it didn't look like George was going to pull it out.
You know what's interesting? In Foreman's 2 careers, he's had 2 careers, let's face it, Frank. His second career after taking 10 years off was a Hall of Fame career.
He had 2 Hall of Fame careers like Tom Brady.
Right, exactly. And the only time he got knocked down, we all know against Ali, that's attributed to fatigue, even though I think Ali's power and crispness of punching had a lot to do with it.
Ali hurt him a little bit, yes.
Right. And Lyle, Lyle knocked him down twice. Those were the only times Foreman was knocked down.
Well, Jimmy Young got a knockdown against him in the 12th round, but
I'm sorry, right.
But Jack, he was dead tired. He couldn't stand.
You're right.
I could have knocked him down then. He was totally out of gas.
Right, Jimmy Young knocked him down. Absolutely.
But Jack, if you think about it, Ron Lyle in Foreman's 2 careers is the only fighter that we saw hit him and really hurt him. Before he was fatigued, he hit him and he hurt him and he dropped him twice in that 4th round. Remember, that round had 3 knockdowns. Foreman went down, Lyle went down, and then Foreman went down. And I'll never forget Foreman walking back to his corner after that 4th round. I was watching the fight at my girlfriend's house. At that time, I think I was 17. And I just said, I don't think George is going to get out of this round. And then he came back and he got Lyle in the corner and he must have hit him with 20 shots. And when the fight was over, Lyle was out on the canvas. They could have counted to 40.
Yeah, you know what no one ever said about Lyle, and it's just fair to say he couldn't win the big one. They said about Jerry Quarry all the time, unfairly, but they did say it. Because when you think of his biggest matches, the heavyweight title to Ali, he fought very well, but he got stopped at the end. The Jerry Quarry fight, his coming out party at the Garden, Quarry decisively outpointed him. I was at that fight. And the George Foreman fight where Lyle fought brilliantly, but just ran out of gas, really, because Foreman just outlasted him. So when you think of it against Ali and Foreman, those were kind of winnable fights, actually. He couldn't close it out, more or less.
But Jack, is it fair to say, if you think about it, most people consider Ali the consensus greatest? I mean, it's between him and Joe Louis. I'd say most people would have Ali a little bit ahead of Louis. Okay. And most people believe that Foreman may be the strongest and hardest punching heavyweight in history. So the fact that those two guys beat him, I mean, yeah, you could say he didn't win the big one, but if you look at who he was against, if it was another era, another time, he might have pulled it out. Now, the Quarry fight, that was one of the best fights Quarry ever fought. It was Lyle being introduced to the big time. He does have, a win, the knockout win over Shavers, but the two fights.
He appointed Joe Bugner when Bugner was good in a close fight. Yeah.
Jack, but the two fight, and Bugner said that Lyle beat him up more than anybody ever fought. But the fights that probably hold him back a little bit are the Quarry fight and the two Jimmy Young fights. He just couldn't do anything with Jimmy Young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think this Foreman fight, because it was the anniversary fight, it helps Lyle's legacy. I think it elevates him in the eyes of people.
It was a good loss. Absolutely, because Jack, nobody else did that to Foreman for 30 years.
But his trainer, Lyle's trainer, Bobby Lewis, said it best after the fight. He said, "We had it and we let it get away. What can I say?" And that's the truth. They kind of, we hear about athletes closing out games. That especially the NFL and football, it's about closing a game out. And so many teams don't. For Lyle, it was closing the Foreman fight out, not even closing the Ali fight out. That had a lot of rounds.
That's the difference between the greats and the near greats. It's this much. It's not a lot. I mean, think about it. If Scott Norwood misses a field goal, Bill Parcells may not be, if he makes the field goal, Bill Parcells might not be the legend that he is today. That's just the way it is. But it's like, what gets me crazy is, somebody will say, and I don't mean what you said. Well, Lyle, he couldn't be Ali, couldn't be Foreman. Okay, well, how many guys beat those guys? If that's the measuring stick, then everybody isn't. Then nobody is any good.
That's the thing with Quarry. He lost to
Same
Ellis
thing.
A little bit early in his career, a somewhat close fight, but he couldn't. Quarry never could have beaten Ali and Frazier. Ali could have fought Quarry 100 times. He would have beat him easy. If he fought Frazier 100 times, maybe Jerry would have gotten him a couple of times,
Exactly.
98-2, style.
The fights hurt Quarry
Eventually, Quarry would have beaten Frazier in one fight if they fought once a month for 3 years. He would have beaten him one of the months.
I would agree with that.
He never would have beaten Ali,
Jack, and think about this. All those guys are all gone. Hard to believe. Isn't that crazy? We live in a world now where all those guys are gone. However, there is something that brings them back, and it makes me crazy. Jack, the AI world is making me crazy with all these pictures. I mean, I put up a picture of the first Ali Frazier fight, and you can see by the trunks. When I first saw the picture, I thought to myself, boy, I don't think there's a picture of that fight I haven't seen that's been public. And I thought, I never saw that. So I looked at the trunks real close, and you could see it's not a picture from the fight. Frazier's trunks don't look right. Ali's don't look right. And Frazier's stance is all wrong. It's completely. Jack, there's one going around to Marvin Hagler sitting in a hotel room with a big boombox and saying that he lived in squalor just about until he got the title.
That's what I hate about social media. What you're talking about, there was the picture supposedly that was completely false of Ali visiting Frazier in his hospital while Frazier's in the hospital bed. Frankly, we have the 2-minute warning, about a minute and a half left. Just giving you the heads up on that. Are you getting the pay-per-view show Saturday? Let me ask you, Lopez Stevenson.
Jack, if I can figure out how to do it technically, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning on getting that. I think you can still get it on the Zone without being a subscriber, that they'll take your money, that it's shown on the Zone, but you can't get any other fights. But if you're paying for something, I think they allow you to get it a la carte.
So you do that with your credit card, and then you just get that one fight?
Yeah, I'm not sure now that I'm no longer a subscriber. That's a good question. And you want to know something, Frank, what I'm probably going to do? I'll just go to sleep early. I'll put it on the next morning, watch it. The only problem with YouTube putting it on, YouTube sometimes has a caption underneath telling you what happened. Lopez defeats Stevenson, so you know kind of beforehand.
There's nothing like seeing it live, Jack.
Right, exactly. But you know, if you know what happened, if you don't know what happened, you can watch it on delayed tape as if you're seeing it live. But with that,
All right,
Frank,
you're going to
okay,
go with Lopez, and I'm going to go with Stevenson.
yeah, I'm going to go with Lopez winning a close decision here. I think he'll hit, you know, big punches, get on the inside to a degree. But
I'm not real strong on the outcome. I'm not real strong on the pick, Jack, but I'll take Lopez for the reasons I stated earlier in the show. That's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. We will.
What about you? Take Lopez or Stevenson? Quick.
Stevenson.
Oh, I thought you just said Lopez. That's why. Okay,
If I did, I meant to say Stevenson.
Frank's picking Stevenson on points. Picking Lopez same way. See you next week, everyone.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.